Hi. Hey, everybody. How's it going? I'm going to turn on my fan in here. My nice fan over there. It keeps me nice and cool in here. It's still hot out here in California. Nice, though. It's beautiful. It's been lovely. Fantastic. I was away all week, though. Visited Firehouse Guitars in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Did my very, very first Inspired by the Tone clinic there and had a really, really good time. It was a great turnout. We had about 100 plus. It was about 110 or 15 or something like that turned out, which was awesome. And then I did one the next day for Sweetwater, and one the following day actually for their same clinic for their sales guys. And just kind of had a terrific time. It was really fun. Thanks to Suhr and for getting me out there, and my buddy Chris Clarkson at Suhr for coming with me. It was really fun. Had a good old time. It's a lot of nice people. And it was a success, I think. I mean, people seem to enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to taking it now to Japan. I leave in about 36 hours over there, and I go over there and do a few. And then there'll be more. There'll be more coming. So we'll just book more. But these are the first few in the series. I used a couple PT15s in stereo with my Quad Cortex for all the effects. Quad Cortex MIDI switching the amps. I brought my HSS custom Suhr guitar, and I just had a really, really good time. It was cool. So that's that story. That's what I've been up to. What do you guys got? Did anybody watch the Jakey Lee Tone Talk the other day? Anybody have fun watching that? I haven't seen it yet. Gotta see it. So just looking through some of the folks that are here and see if there's any questions, comments that you, what's it say? I think it's awesome that Me5, not sure what that means. That's some sort of foreign language, but hey, Arthur, what's going on, man? And hung out with my good friend Nick Bocott. Yeah, Nick is great out at Sweetwater. He's really great. He spent like pretty much a lot of his time, like the 2 days that I was there with me and hanging. And we did some fun stuff out there. I filmed a couple videos, one for the PT15 and one for my guitar, but also I did one with him that'll be coming out. And it's kind of all about the things that people never talk about with regards to Eddie Van Halen's playing, or at least the things that aren't discussed, but that are so important. So it was fun because we're both Van Halen nerds. So we had a lot of fun and kind of discussed a lot of good stuff. So Tom says the Jakey Lee talk was great. Yeah, I got to watch it. I got to see it. I definitely want to check it out. So Karen says I missed it as well. Yeah, so I'll tune in, and that's the great thing about YouTube. You can go back and watch it anytime, just like some of you are probably in the future watching this right now after it already happened. So my week was good. Let's see, Metal Militia asking how my week was. Yeah, it was great. Always great to get out there and travel around and stuff. It was a little crazy getting back from Sweetwater. I almost missed my connection flight. That airport, that's the only thing about going to Sweetwater. That Fort Wayne airport is questionable. So I think it might be either Indianapolis or maybe Detroit might be the way to go. And then you drive a couple hours to get over there, or 2.5 maybe. But that avoids the connection. You know, the problem with connecting flights in America, it's weird how airlines will book you on a flight that you're probably not going to make unless you're really athletic. And because if you've got an hour connection, this is just my recommendation. Never book an hour connection. It's just stressful. And if your plane is 15 minutes late, now you got problems, or 20 minutes late, which they routinely are, right? So 2 hours, man. Just give yourself 2 hours. Don't try and make it a shorter travel day because it's going to end up being a longer travel day substantially. Anyways, my plane ended up leaving about a half hour or 45 minutes late, and I only had a hour and 10 connection, something like that. So now I've got like 30 minutes to make the other flight. It was in, I sprinted. I had to run down a staircase and then way down along a long thing and then up another thing into the other terminal. And when I was in Atlanta to make my connection, and I actually made it. I ran up to the airline ticket counter, and there was nobody there. I thought, oh, that's it. I missed it. I'm stuck in Atlanta overnight. And then somebody came walking out of the jet bridge, and I said, no, I was just down helping people on the plane or whatever. You can still get on. It's like right at the, you just made it. It's like, oh my God, but it's stressful, right? So anyways, that's the whole thing. You're flying out of Fort Wayne, you're not getting a direct flight anywhere unless you happen to live in Chicago, or maybe, like a hub, if you live if you're flying to Atlanta or you're flying to Chicago or something, maybe, but other than that. So, yeah, there's that. But anyways, blah, blah, blah. That's not interesting. Let's talk about guitar stuff. Let's see, looking through the, my niece hurt says Ice-T and myself have one thing in common. I ain't getting on no plane. Does he not fly? Are you serious? I can't believe that. How would he get from because he's got to work in New York and stuff like that, and touring overseas and stuff? He's got to fly, right? I mean, is he one of the? I've known or heard about people that actually take boats to Europe and stuff when they tour. I think Lenny Kravitz might be kind of like that, not into flying, and maybe I'm making that up, but I think it was Lenny, or maybe it's when they can, they'd be happier on a ship, It's interesting. Yeah. What are my thoughts on the new trend of musicians calling out and proving that other musicians aren't actually playing or singing? I don't know. I don't have any thoughts on it beyond I mean, my thoughts on calling it out are I gonna avoid antagonizing people and stuff just for clicks or views, or I mean, who give me an example, Arthur, of somebody that I mean, there was the Dave Grohl, Taylor Swift sort of quip that he made a while ago, which probably wasn't necessary. I don't know, but didn't really bother me. They were just kind of taking the piss, making a joke. But if that's what you mean, there was that one, but maybe there's been others. I don't know. I mean, I do think it's gotten a little out of hand. The tracks thing. I think if lead vocals are on track, I think I don't know, man. If you're charging a lot of money for a ticket, kids, it's funny because in the pop world, people don't seem to care that much, which is unfortunate, but I guess that's why it's pop, and it kind of doesn't have the staying power or something of the great classic stuff of yore or whatever, right? Because you weren't going to see, Amy Winehouse or any rock band with their, you know what I mean? Like back in the day, do that stuff. It was just, the careers ended over it, right? I mean, we had the Ashley Simpson debacle or the Milli Vanilli or whatever, and it used to be a major scandal if people found out. Now it's just kind of expected and accepted, and even people are like, hey, it's an experience. You're going to hang with the personality that is whoever is up there doing their thing, and it's more like a, it's all good, it's a show, and it's I don't know, it's not really all good. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just old school about it, but you will be shocked if you do go to there's a lot of older people probably in here in my chat. Let's be honest, right? Older than younger. You know what I mean? I mean, there's probably a fair amount of folks out in here that are 30 plus, right? 40 plus. And we just don't resonate with that as much as kids do these days. But I swear to God, if you go to a show where there's a bunch of 18-year-olds or 20-year-olds or 23-year-olds or 15-year-olds, there's tracks going on like crazy. But I'm talking pop shows, I'm not talking about more niche progressive rock genres or something, or things that, I'm talking modern sort of pop stuff and smaller artists, go to the, I went to a number of shows like that recently. Britt Bowman plays with a bunch of people that have over the last few years that would be in that category. And there's a lot of tracks going on, man. I mean, she's playing, the drums are live. There used to be one other musician up there playing guitar, generally speaking, or sometimes bass or something. Everything else will be on track. So you got live drums, one musician, a lot of stuff on track, filling it all in, and then a lead singer with a ton of background vocals and stuff on track, sometimes the lead vocal. And it's doubled. They're doubling it. And then they don't care. They're singing along, and they're come on, they hold the mic out, and you hear the lead vocal keep going. And I'm I mean, I went to a show like that a while ago with that she was playing at with somebody. I went there with Glenn Sobel, who's Alice Cooper's drummer, and he was watching and going like, he just had this look of confusion on his face. And he's going, "What's going on, man?" Like, and I was like, I know this is how they do it now, you know, and it's just kind of weird. But if you're older, you're like, they're not even trying to like to you know what I mean, to hide it. Like, there's no effort to try and hide it. It's like, okay, you know. Anyways, it's a funny thing. So, but if you're a classic, so if it's expected and you don't, and people don't care, I guess it's fine. Not really my bag, but you know, what do we know, right? It's like, it's a different thing. But if it's a band and it's kind of a classic thing, and you know, and it's going on, maybe it's, and especially if tickets are getting really, really expensive and stuff like that, you're expecting to see it live, then it gets into a little bit of an ethical thing almost, you know, I think. So, but I don't know about calling people out, you know. It's an interesting discussion, though. Sweetwater Rock, I guess you were there, Corey. Thanks, man. Agree on the connectors with 6 flights in the next 10 days. Yeah, you got a lot coming up. Yeah, you just got to get there and just give yourself it's better to have an extra hour of buffer, and that makes your travel day longer than have this really tight connection. You're running in between, and then you maybe save an hour on your total travel day, but you maybe miss it, and then it goes into the next day, and you're really screwed. So I just would recommend, and especially you guys, if you're going to Europe, just know, do not book anything less than 2 hours, more like 3. Like if you're flying or traveling through Amsterdam or Heathrow, never book an hour and 50 connection or anything, or an hour and 45 even, or anything. Make it sure it's 2 hours plus, because you'll be going between terminals. You have to go through security again. If you're flying to the United States, you know, let's say you're flying from Germany to Amsterdam, US, they're going to make you go through security again in Amsterdam every time. And so you got to go through with the tray and do the whole thing again and stuff, and there'll be a lineup. And so you're generally changing terminals, and so just good rule. Thank me later. A lot of you probably know this already, but yeah. Thanks for coming to the clinic, though. Appreciate that. Sent my SL68 Mark II to Suhr. My dumbass ran it without a load and just watched Andy Wood video of him shredding on SL68. Made me miss it more. Oh, so you probably just popped a fuse. I mean, you might be fine. Maybe it's just a fuse, and but could be anything from a blown output transformer all the way to almost nothing wrong, just a blown fuse. So blown HT fuse or something. But it's probably good to send it to them, have them look at the tubes, make sure there wasn't any arcing or any of that stuff. It happens. We all do it. Don't be too hard on yourself. Sir Rufus or Rufus Reloaded. It's been a long time since I played either, really. The Rufus Reloaded was always brighter and maybe a little less low end, a little more Marshall, I think. And the Rufus was a little more just the classic Sir, almost SE sort of voicing or something, you know. I never did. I'll say this because I love those guys, and John's one of my best friends. I didn't understand the marketing or the decision behind the Reloaded designation. I think they should maybe kill that, or maybe they already have Rufus and Rufus Reloaded. It almost was like, oh, well, was the first one not good anymore? Like that was almost the way that I always like people are going to perceive it like that. And also it's a different voicing. So they could have just called it a different pedal, I think. I don't know. Sorry guys, but that's just I don't know if they're even doing a lot of the Reloaded versions anymore. My favorite pedal out of the whole Riot series is the Mini. Actually, the Riot Mini is actually a killer little, and it's a mini pedal. So check it out. It's so small. It sounds great. It's probably one of the best mini distortions, if not the best on the market. Really, really good. Yeah, I had a flyout gig, says Karen, managed to not pay any baggage. That's cool. Gate checked base and suitcase for free. That's nice. Yeah, I mean, all the little tricks. If there's anything you can do to avoid those fees and stuff, it's a good thing, you know. It's one of the benefits of definitely having status on an airline. If you fly enough and stuff, you know, you can generally get 2 bags and sometimes increased weight and all that for free. So Not sure if you got that, but Classic Rock Granddad says, just had a big birthday, so it had me a new guitar day. Got an EVH Frankenstrat. They're fun, right? I always say it's just fun to look at. It's fun to just, you walk in the room and there it is and you just smile. It's cool. So congratulations. Happy birthday. It's awesome. Tom says they remodel our airport, increase the distance between the gates. Yeah. See if you can get one of those carts. Beep, beep, beep. And you just sit on the back and somebody drives you. Good deal. Oh, cool. Just saw Gilmore, says Fareed, at the Royal Albert Hall. That's a bucket list gig. Although he's 78, it was incredible. I heard it was incredible. Somebody else told me it was amazing. He sounds great, man. And like, I think I brought this up last week, but check out the Ice-T Body Count, Dave Gilmore collaboration on a new version of Comfortably Numb. It's good. It's really cool. And the guitar on it is great. I love everything about it, actually. Super cool. Yeah. Richard says Detroit Airport's only 2.5 hours from Sweetwater. Yeah, you're going to spend, if, you go to the airport, you're going to be there 90 minutes before or whatever, at least, right? And then, you're going to have a connector flight, and then you're going to have an hour layover. So if you weigh all that in, that 2.5 hours that it takes you to drive to the airport, that's your connector flight, I think. I mean, yeah, I know you got to get to the Detroit airport early too. So let's just say it's the hour or hour and a half that it takes you to get from Sweetwater to Atlanta or whatever. It's just, if you got a direct flight, it's always better. So, if you're flying to LA, or you're flying to Seattle, you're flying wherever, you can get a direct flight out of Detroit. So just go to Detroit. That's a Friedman trick too, by the way. He loves Detroit anyway, so he's always going to Detroit to do everything. But yeah. The Jakey Lee show was very interesting, says Paul Ewing. Guy's a good storyteller, putting wit into every tale. He's a really sweet guy. I went out with him and Friedman actually for dinner in Vegas, and he's a riot. You get him talking. He's super cool, super engaging and funny. Yeah, super funny. And, legendary guitar player. He's awesome. Good dude. Great master class at Sweetwater. Sounded awesome. Thanks, Keith. I appreciate it. They had a really great PA there in that room too, and that was helpful. Just a couple 57s on the cabs. It was really fun. I had a really fun time. I'm glad you guys liked the clinic and that a few of you in here made it out. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Moving down through the chat here. I live close to Detroit. It takes 2 hours to get to Sweetwater. Yeah, that's not bad at all, is it? So I love that Friedman owns a JMP 2203 from 77, big brother to the 2304. Yeah, I've heard that amp, and it's a really nice one. He just thought it'd be good to have around as kind of like a, it's a benchmark. It's good to have a Plexi. It's good to have a, it's good to have 150 watt 4-hole Marshalls. It's good to have a JCM 800, just to kind of, or whatever, a 2203 or 2204 style amp, just to kind of have it as a benchmark tone, if you're into Marshalls. Yeah. Did anyone hear the new Rat song? I did. It was like a song that never made it on Out of the Cellar, right? It was pretty cool. Kind of Iron Maiden-ish guitars. Interesting, like the harmony guitars and stuff. Quite good, and sounds like, a great version of what they were back then. Just a cool track to hear. So check it out. I quite enjoyed it. Let's see here. David Johnson with a super chat. Thank you. Appreciate that. I have PT15 Quad Cortex 2 Suhr 112. Was at your Sweetwater clinic, would like to replicate your setup. Can you explain how you're wiring 4 cable? Sure. And add the second amp. Can I use Seymour Duncan Power Stage's second amp? Yeah, you can. There might be a little phasing, like depending on, you might have to flip the phase on the second output. Not sure if you can do that in the QC or not. I don't think so. So you might need a phase flip speaker cable, which is a good thing to have around anyway. Sometimes when you use 2 amplifiers together, you know, if one is, depending on you got a 50-50 chance of them being in phase, basically. And if they're not, you flip the phase on one of them and then they'll be in phase. It's not a big deal. Phase flip speaker cable basically has the hot and the ground, or the hot and the shield or whatever, flipped on one side, I think, and it flips the phase. I think that's what it is. But so anyway, look into that. If you try it and it works, don't worry about it. But if you try it and you're out of phase, you'll be like, oh, I'm disappointed. Now I got to figure this out and get a speaker. So you might just want to get one anyway. If you're running stereo, it's good to it's a good thing to have around, the phase flip speaker cable. Other than that, okay, so let's get into it. So you basically plug your guitar into the quad cortex input. I use loop 2 then on the quad cortex to get out to my amplifier. So you're going to take the send on loop 2 and you're going to run that to the front of your PT15, the input. On that send, you're going to need an isolation transformer. Generally speaking, there's going to be a ground buzz because you've got a ground loop. So I use a little Samson ground isolation transformer. It's about $35. You can find them on Amazon. Search for Samson isolation transformer. It'll be a little black box with a switch on it that says ground and lift. And it works great. There's more expensive ones from Palmer. You can get a EBTech hum eliminator one as well, different ones. But anyway, they're another good thing to have around. 2 things to have in your toolkit: phase flip speaker cable and an ISO box for situations like this. Okay, so but having said that, you're going to take that send to, it's going to go out to the input of the amp with the ISO transformer in line, the little patch cable. Then you're going to take the send out of the PT15. You're going to come back to the return of loop 2 on the quad cortex. You're then going to take the outputs of the quad cortex, left and right. I use the 2/4 inch ones on the back, not the balance, but I use the 2/4 inch. And I'll take those out and run those out to the return of amp 1, and then to the effect return of a second amp, or to a power amp, like you're going to use Seymour Duncan. And then you just plug those into the respective cabinets. And that's it. Now, on your patches on the quad cortex, you're going to need to insert effect loop 2. And you just put that little effect loop, just insert that into your patch, and then everything will work. And if your levels are all just kind of like, level on the quad on 10, like the big knob, input and everything is all at 0, like when you can go in and set it on the screen, just the inputs, everything should be just about right at unity gain, and it should sound just fine like that. And then you can start inserting things. Now, anything you insert on the quad cortex in front of that effect loop, to the left of, in the little screen, to the left of the loop, that's going to be in front of the amp. And anything you insert after that little effect loop insignia is going to be in stereo and in the loop, in the effect loops of the amplifiers. Hopefully that explains it. Go back and refer to this if you need to, but it'll work great, man. Ideally you'd have a tube amp for the return, because the tube's PT15 is a part of the sound, but most of the sound's coming from the preamp. So it's going to sound cool, just to make sure it's in phase. Now, to know if you're in phase or out of phase, just set up the 2 cabinets, set the volumes exactly the same of each side, and go right in the middle of the 2 cabinets. If it sounds extremely weird right in the middle, like it gets all hollow, and then you go to one side or the other and it sounds normal, if these are your 2 cabinets, normal, weird, normal, then you're out of phase. And then you'll have to use that phase flip speaker cable. I would do it from the Duncan power amp to the second cab. It'll flip the phase. You go in the middle, it should sound really full then, just like, oh yeah, there's the sound. Sounds normal. It'll sound very hollow and thin otherwise if you're out of phase. Every time you add an amplification stage in an amplifier, it flips the phase. So this is why, let's say you're using 2 amps in stereo, and then if you were on one of them to change from the clean channel to the overdrive channel, and you were running, let's say you're running like a chorus pedal splitting out to the 2 of them, and you're just running it. So you got a twin reverb, let's say, and then you got a channel switching something or other with 2 channels in it. Oftentimes, if you change channels on the second amp, all of a sudden it'll go out of phase, and that's because the amplification stages are different between the two channels, and now you flip the phase on the one side. Part of the trouble. If you're using a preamp, and that's only if we're going into the fronts of the amps, that particular instance would flip the phase. If you're going into the effects loops, and you're using just a preamp of one main amp, that'll never happen, because you're doing that. You're doing the gain stage stuff pre the phase flipping is happening pre when you send out to the. Never mind. I'm just rambling. But anyways. Oh God, that's enough of that. Let's talk about something else. Lead vocals on tracks is betrayal. I don't disagree. Sometimes that betrayal is just accepted, though, I guess. Oh, it's Ken Tamplin that's doing the not singing. I see. That's interesting. He's got a pretty popular channel. That dude used to know my ex-girlfriend back from like 10 years ago. They were like buds, and so I remember that guy from way back then. He's a good singer. I think he's down in Orange County or something. He's like close to around here, but interesting. New Dream Theater is awesome. I haven't checked it out yet. That's cool. Yeah, I know Portnoy's back, right, playing with him, so that's interesting. I'd like to hear that. Got to check that out. Ideal weight for an electric guitar. Bought one of yours at 7 ounces. I wish it was lighter. Well, if is it a hum single, or is it the mahogany one? It just depends on wood these days. It's hard to actually find like super light wood. How much is 7 ounces in? What's 7 ounces in pounds? Let's see. No, 7.04 ounces. That can't be right. 7 ounces in pounds is 0.44 pounds. So I don't know what that means, but I don't do ounces. Sorry. Old days concerts were concerts. Today's concerts are shows with all the glitz and glamour of cheese. I know what you mean. The old concerts with the box PAs and all the smoke before the show and everybody getting ready, and then it was just too loud and awesome. Yeah. I get it. Sorry, I never answered the question. What's the ideal weight? It really depends on the guitar. I don't particularly think there is. I mean, it depends what you want. My Les Paul Custom is fairly heavy. It's probably 9.5, 10 pounds, something like that. And it's got this depth to it that's really cool. Heavier guitars like Heavy Ash, like the Frankenstrat was, like my Heavy Ash version of that guitar, it's got a cool sound. Like when the body's maple and it's hard ash and it's a little on the heavy side, there's a solid thing to it that happens. And that's the same thing that I get out of it. The lighter you get, the more air in the tone, which can be cool, for Jimmy Page, Les Paul kind of thing. If you wanted a little more acoustic-y, a little more like airy in the sound. Or if you wanted a little bit more like a mid-range rock machine, or a little more depth and solid to the tone, a little more fundamental or something, it seems like the heavier they get, the more of that you get. So it really depends on the guitar, There could be heavy sounding great guitars, heavy sounding crap guitars, or light great guitars and light guitars that have no balls, no bass. So it just depends. Generally speaking, though, with the lighter you go, I find you get sort of the more air in the tone and the more kind of, but there's going to be a point where it just doesn't seem to have that. Do you know what I mean? When it gets too light, maybe you don't want that, but yeah. A couple super chats. I'm going to get to those there. There's another one from Karen. Question. Sometimes I play in bands that need one sound like a sample. Think Hell's Bells bell tone. I would love to trigger it with a pedal. Ooh. I don't really have any suggestions. I mean, that sounds like a job for a drum box, to be honest, like something like the SPD from Roland. With the pads on it. And I know there's smaller versions of that for sure, but look for something like the SPD and start there, and then search for similar products on Sweetwater or something and see if there's something that's a little smaller. Yeah. And the other thing, this can be, and we're talking tracks, so we might as well, this could be the time to run tracks. you know, because literally you probably have what you need. If you've got an interface and a laptop, you might just run a click and a mono bell sample, reach down and push play, you know, and bring your interface and just run it to the PA, and the drummer plays to the click and the bell sample's perfect. And you're not, you know, if you want to trigger it live, yes. Okay. Pad, SPD style. There's other products. Probably Elisa's had stuff, you know, and you can trigger, but a pedal, I mean, do you really want it coming through your amp? Because it's going to be kind of a compromise, you know. It's the kind of thing that if you need a real, like, you know, it's supposed to be full range and all that, right? So I would recommend more like one of those sampler boxes like drummers use for such things. So yeah, I'm going to be seeing Alice Cooper soon in Hammersmith Odeon. That's a legendary venue, and that's cool. Should be fun. Yeah. Jeff Beck never needed a light show. I love Jake mentioned loud amps on stage. I went to see Jake with Dave actually a while ago, and he was using 2 of his signature Friedmans at the Whiskey, and they were both cranking, and it was cool. It was totally cool. Yeah. Tom says, well, one thing I do know is I'm not paying to see lip sync and pre-recorded rhythm tracks. Yeah, I don't particularly like it either, you know. Somebody says Frankie Valley. Yeah. Yeah. God bless Frankie. He's out there still doing it and having fun, I guess. I'm going to be in LA this week for Robbie Robertson tribute show on Thursday. That's cool. That's awesome. Let's see here. Braxall says, hello, Pete. What's up? How you doing? Ken Tamplin's being called out. Is he being called out? I guess I'll have to look. Generally speaking, I'm not really into the controversy on YouTube for views. You know, it's not the kind of video I make, obviously. I've never done it. I've never done a, like, calling out people and, you know, that stuff that people do, and kind of, I think it's a cheap way to I mean, you know, people click on it because they like controversy. People like drama. But yeah. So Broxall says, do you like the new Tone X update? Wonder what control we really have with Tone X1 with this update. I haven't checked it out, to be honest. I know what they're doing, but I haven't had it. I've been traveling, just haven't had time to look at any of it. So there's another question about it. Have you checked out the new Tone X beta firmware? Love my thoughts. I know what they're doing. Looks like it's going to be really cool. They explained it to me when I was there in Italy a few weeks ago, but I haven't had a chance to try yet. So no opinion yet. I'm sure it's going to be totally neat, though. Basically, they found a way to, you know, eke some more. They've got, well, we got some processing power to spare in here. Let's do this and this and this with it, and it's kind of cool. You know, they're just trying to kind of give you more for your money. Really, pretty neat. Backing tracks can be used tastefully. You can't travel in a horn section or string section. Yeah, I mean, we used to do it. You know, for instance, when I played with Don Henley, I shouldn't even say his name, but I mean, there was times when actually, to be honest, I don't think there was tracks. There was horns. When we did things with horns, I guess it was Will playing them. Yeah, so it was one of the keyboard players doing it. But, you know, sometimes you got to have like those types of things, horns and strings on track, right? And, you know, or with keys playing them, just because people want to hear them in the music. But I would just say, like, it's never the same, you know, when you do that. I mean, it's always better. Like, my favorite Dawn tour was when we actually did a tour with horns. We did in 2011, maybe we did a run of shows for a few weeks with a 7-piece horn section, and it sounded, you know, we play Sunset Grill and stuff. It was like, and they were behind me, and it was like, that's so cool. It just sounded like we sounded awesome. I mean, with that, it was just so luxurious sounding. I don't know. It was really cool. But anyway, some super chats I'm going to get to here. Just in a second here. Jakey Lee is cool, says Arthur. I've met him, I hung out with him a few times. Really funny. He is really funny. He's cool. Looking for a 112 combos for small gigs. Anything between AC30 and a Plexi. Single channel pedal platform. Bad Cat, probably good. Yeah. That's probably a good idea, I would say. You know, Plexi AC. Yeah. I mean, they have a really nice, rich sound. The Bad Cats, I've made a couple of videos for them. It's good stuff. You know, on a budget, I would say the AC-15 from Vox, some variation. I have one of those hand-wired Fawn, or I guess it's Fawn, hand-wired kind of, you know, the light-colored ones, whatever that Tolex is. Because an AC-15 or 30 isn't it? Like a top boost channel isn't super far off from a Marshall, really. So, but yeah. The Bad Cat. That's a good idea. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not giving you much for your $10 super chat, but I think you've kind of got it figured out, to be honest. Yeah, especially if you just want single channel, you know. Yeah. Rat has a new tune. Yeah, they do. They put it out. I think there was a greatest hits or some sort of reissue or anniversary version or something. Maybe it's like a greatest hits set or something that came out, and I think it's a part of that. So, but it's a new tune. It's an old tune that it was unreleased. It was one from the Out of the Cellar sessions that they mixed and put out. So, looking to put some Thorn buckers in my PRS CU24. What model would you recommend for harder rock? And do I need the F spaced for the trem bridge? I think so, yeah. You might just double check that if it's a 53 or a 50 on that. I'm not 100%. Regular space is, yeah, fine for the neck, but on the bridge, does anybody know that on a PRS? It's not I'm 80% sure that it's a F spaced, the PRS tremolo bridge. But I'm not 100% sure that it's not some strange narrow Gibson style spacing or something for that guitar. I'm pretty sure it's F spaced. I would go for harder rock. I mean, Thornbuckers aren't. It's not like a metal pickup. It's not a high output pickup. So it's a PAF style pickup. So just straight up, you know, the A2 version is a little bit more old school Van Halen, and it's a A2 9K, you know, overwound for a PAF a little bit. A2, so warm or spongier on the bottom end sort of scene. So, you know, it's just keep that in mind that they're a PAF. You know, that's the sort of the output and stuff. Now you can always boost and add, you know, more gain with modern amps and stuff like that. It's gonna have a nice open top end and all that. I would probably just go Thornbucker Plus in the bridge and you know, the regular only one-way offer for the neck, and see if you like them. Have you ever watched Rick Beato's show? And would you be a guest if he invited you? 100%. I've actually done an interview with Rick. It's on YouTube. It's many years ago. It was 2017 or 18. He interviewed me at GitCon in Germany when we were there at the Warwick Framus factory, which was really fun. He's, you know, he's got bigger fish to fry than me these days. He's doing he's pretty much everybody under the sun, you know. But I love Rick. He's a great guy. We have a good rapport. I really enjoy seeing him. You know, ever since that time when I met him, that was the first day I met him, actually, when we did that interview. Every time I see him, it's always a good chat, and he's a super dude. So, yeah, and that's true. Ben says, "Oh yeah, I did his New Year's show as well. Did that many years ago." Yep. Yeah, New Year's show with Tim Pierce. That was during the pandemic, kind of that weird New Year's, and we were all stuck at home and stuff. Any tips for playing fast licks standing up other than shortening the strap? Always play standing up at rehearsals before shows, but always feel uncomfortable when actually playing. It's always a struggle. Yeah, just put the strap where you're comfortable. Always put it a hair lower than perfect, you know, just because I like the look a little lower. But definitely the strap higher is more comfortable for me. And you're doing the right thing. There's nothing else you can do except practice the stuff standing up and just do the best you can. Find a strap that's comfortable for you, that works, and make yourself as comfortable as possible. That's it. Yeah. Let's see here. Brian says, I'm running a TS-808 first and a Nobles ODR1 second through and a Triumph third. What's a Triumph? What drive is that? I'm not sure. JHS Soul Food fourth. Bunch of pedals, so kind of clean boosty there. A Kalani, not really clean, colored boost, let's say. on a clean channel Marshall and stacking them. Would you run them this way? I don't know what the Triumph is, but I would say that yes, the TS808 in front of the Nobles, because the Nobles is a bit more of an ampy kind of thing, bit more less gain, full range, mid scoop. JHS Soul Food. JHS Soul Food might be good in front of the Nobles too, but if you're running it with the gain all the way down and then the level up to just kick the amp harder and get things fatter, probably good the way that you're doing it. I just not sure what a Triumph is. Matthew Kennedy there with a super chat. Hi, I'm playing my first gig in a couple of years next week, he says. I used to do all the time, but I've been doing session work and teaching lately. Playing live is definitely its own thing. Any advice? Exactly kind of what we were just talking about with the strap thing. Just practice like you're going to be playing. So especially if you're kind of going in cold and there's no rehearsal and stuff like that, put in a little time running through the set, standing up and at volume with all your sounds and everything as close to as possible to the volume that you're going to be playing at the gig, so that you can make sure that your effects, delay mix and things like that are all about where they're supposed to be. Sometimes when you turn the amp up and you're playing loud, you're like, oh wow, there is way too much delay. Like if you're playing a really quiet volume and you're just playing, you're like, yeah, it sounds good, turn things up and you're like, oh, my mixes are off of my effects a little bit and stuff, because you got it up at volume now, pushing a little harder, and you can generally gauge a little better where to set everything. So just make sure you do that. Like, in other words, replicate the gig as much as you can in advance, practice that way. Then naturally you'll feel more comfortable when you get on stage. I've gone as far as, for certain things, when I'm, like big auditions and things, and when I'm really like, I just want to make myself as comfortable as possible, I will go to a rehearsal studio and set everything up and play through everything through a PA, nice and loud tracks. If I'm replicating, the band and everything, play along to that with my amp up loud, singing background vocals into a microphone through the PA to try and make myself, so it's not that different when I actually get there. You just don't want the first time you play through the stuff at volume, standing up, to be at the rehearsal or at the gig. You want to avoid that. So our sound guy would tap the tip and sleeve of a speaker connected cable with a 9-volt battery. If the speaker jumped out, it's correct. If it retracted, it was out of phase. That's correct. You can do that. Exactly, Rick. If the speaker's going, that's what's happening when one amp sounds out of phase with the other one. When you attack, one speaker's pushing forward and the other one is going backwards first, and that's when they're out of phase. So, and that's a way that you can do it. It's actually works with the 9-volt battery. It makes the speaker jump when the I don't know what it is, but that little impulse that happens when, jolt of power or whatever, and it'll make the speaker either move backwards or forwards. That's right. Good tricks. Arthur with a super chat. Thanks again, man. Just showing support, sending you some extra coffee funds. I appreciate you, man. Thank you very much. Yeah. Under 7 is weird. 7.7 or 7.5 is perfect for a Fender style. I think you're saying in pounds, right? Or is that ounces? I don't know. Ounces and super ounces. What's the? I don't know. I'm not stupid. To me, like if a guitar is 8 pounds to 9.5, I'm pretty good. It's nice to have lighter guitars, but sometimes the super light, like I've got a Suhr Telly that's really light. The body, it's ash, and it's a little neck heavy because it's so light. And that is another thing where it starts to do that just a little bit, like I wish it had another ½ pound on the body. And it's only because of that. So are you going to the King Crimson thing with Vi? So I have tickets, and I made a little error. It's on Britt's birthday. And I bought the tickets not realizing that it was her birthday, and I don't want to expect her to that's what we're going to do for her birthday. Not that she wouldn't. So we'll see as we get closer. I'm just not 100% sure if that's what she wants to do. A friend of mine has tickets to another show, and I was thinking of asking him if he wants to trade, because he's got some to the, I think it's like 1,000 Oaks or something. So I might do that or something. I might just trade out the seats. I haven't asked him if he would do that, but if not, we'll see. She'll probably be okay with it. We can just do her birthday like the day before or day after or something. But she's a lady, so I gotta be aware of, whatever she wants to do. I'm okay with. But I did buy seats, to the LA show. Yeah. Yeah. Your thoughts on an amp for home gigging, small venues? This is David. Home and gigging, small venues, PT-50. I mean, that's what I use. But I think you might mean combo. Like if you're talking about a combo, a Princeton reverb or a deluxe reverb is a beautiful thing. If we're talking about Suhrs, the Bella is fantastic, a great pedal platform. 50 watts, got enough to handle just about any. It's lots of headroom and stuff like that. So it just depends what you're looking for. Another combo that I think I always recommend to folks if they're looking for a combo, a runt is good. The Friedman's runt, because it's 20 watts. You can get one and a clean channel and a BE Marshall style channel, and it's a great little gigging combo. Yeah. Let's see here. Chris says we have discontinued the reloaded models with the launch of the Black Series. What's up, my friend, my traveling buddy? So what's the Black Series? Because this is stuff people think I know all things, sir, but I don't always. Let's see, Suhr Black Series pedals. I see. Right. Okay. Sheba Drive Black Edition, Riot Distortion Pedal Black, Riot Mini Distortion Pedal Black. So, Chris, while you're here, can you tell me, are you saying that the Riot Black Series is like the reloaded version? Does it actually sound different than the regular Riot, or is it the same? Or are these just like a different cosmetically from the original versions, and the Riot Reloaded is just discontinued altogether? Guess that's my question. Is the Black Series the Riot Reloaded in different clothing, or is it the regular Riot in different clothing? Yeah. Let's see. Weight does not bother me, says Guitar Man 45. As long as the neck feels right to me, I'm happy. Yeah, no, I don't like a really heavy guitar, but I don't mind up to 9.5 pounds, maybe even bordering on 10 if it's a Les Paul custom or something, and it's just part of the sound. You know what I mean? And if it's a heavy ash, the Van Halen thing, those are the two heavy guitars that I think it's part of the sound. Actually, it's actually factors in that I'm aware of. Last year on the UK tour, you ran 2 amps and the pedalboard. How much has changed? Nothing. Still doing. Like those amps are still in England right now, and Classic Rock Show in January, that's what I'll be using, the same amps again. It just works great. So yeah. Let's see. 8 seems like a good weight for a telly. Too heavy for some. Maybe too heavy for some, 8 pounds, but an 8-pound guitar, kind of normal, like 8-pound alder body situation. Some of the Swamp Ash ones are lighter. They're just less dense. So 8 to 10 for a Les Paul. I would say that's right. 8 to 10 for a Les Paul. Super light would be 8. Anything under 8 is like featherweight, And then 10 is like, okay, now we're getting into some beefy 70s New Orleans era stuff. Have you ever played a Jake amp? Or Juke amp? What's a Juke? I haven't. Don't know that amp. No. What? A pre-recorded bell sound? What's next? Well, that's what AC/DC does, Tom. You think that bell is actually being played? I guarantee you the bell is on some sort of sample or track. Anyways. I know you're just kidding, I think. Okay. No, reading through some of the other. Yeah, you guys all got opinions on weights. That's Lauren there. Solid body, 7 to 8 pounds. I would say a little more than that. Semi-hollow, 6 to 7. Hollow about the same, tend to be a bigger body. SGs can be too light with neck dive. Yes, that's for sure. 8 to 9 pounds, okay, but more than that kind of sucks. It depends, man. My Les Paul Custom it's a tone machine. It's got a great depth to it. Great, just solid tone, and it's got to be 9.5, if not 10. I think it's part of the sound. It's a different Les Paul sound. It's not the Jimmy Page sound, but it's a great for distortion and rock and stuff. There's a beef to it that's really cool. No matter what pickups I put in it, that guitar's got a heft. It's the one that I used to play with Cornell all the time. It's got a really cool depth. Yeah. Okay. Who's this with a 64 SG? That's a nice 64 SG Junior. Love those. That's Chris Quinn. What a guitar. Run it into a cranked high watt. You know, that rocks. That sounds like a good rig. Arthur also says a pre-recorded bell sound. What's next? A pre-recorded horn section with no horn section on tour. It'll be chaos. Dogs and Kenzie. You guys are all joking around. Oh boy, oh boy. A sample pedal would go direct to PA, not through bass or guitar amp. I'll look into the Roland. Yeah, somebody probably makes that, a sampler and a pedal where you could play a sound, you know, but I just think it'd be easier, you know, to have a pad where you're triggering it, you know. I mean, obviously you can trigger sounds with pedals. It's like Rick Allen's snare drum has been doing it since the 80s with a pedal with his left foot, right? So his left arm, you know, he had that terrible accident and stuff and he lost his arm. So he then went to using his left foot to trigger the snare. And so there's products out there to do such things, you know, for sure. I'm just not sure if there's a dedicated pedal, but what does your necklace represent? It's a North Star, or like a, you know what I mean? Like a, you know, I'm going this way. It's from Clocks and Colors. Let's see what else we got here. Juan says, I think my shoulder's messed up from playing a heavy Les Paul for many years. That's a thing. My hand freezes up and shoulder starts to hurt. You know what's funny, man? I get shoulder pain and sometimes like really bad localized, like on a gig, like, and then I'm just like, I'm moving the strap around and stuff and just trying to get through it. Can be a light guitar. It doesn't seem to be related to the weight. I know with some people it is related to the weight. I mean, for sure, Billy Gibbons likes light guitars for that reason. I think Steve Stevens as well had some issues with that, and you know, wanted particularly light Les Pauls. But for me, sometimes it comes out of nowhere, that feeling, and it doesn't seem related to the weight of the guitar. It's just like all of a sudden on tour, generally like a few weeks into a tour, it's like I get this pain, and it's just like almost like a pinched nerve thing in there or something. And it doesn't seem, it's just like maybe the more the way I stand or like something I'm doing, a tension thing, than it is like the weight of the guitar on my shoulder. So I guess everybody's different, but I guess having a strap that kind of distributes weight right might be a good thing too. Something that's comfortable. So yeah, let's see. I guess I'm trying to read some questions here. I think that guy meant 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Oh, right. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. 7 ounces. Yeah. Right. So yeah, that is light for a guitar to come to mind. 7 pounds, 4 ounces would be really light. Super light. Anything below 8 is light. There's no, just is, you know, especially these days. Like you can't get the woods that you used to be able to, you know? So are you in UK soon? January. I'll be over there. There's a bunch of dates on the Classic Rock Show's website, starting to release some Europe stuff too. So we're going to be, if any of you in Europe, going to be, you know, UK, Europe, January, February, March, that kind of thing. So it's going to be cool. Do some gigs. Can you tell that story again about when Henley asked you if you had any Fender amps? He was just taking the piss a little bit. It was my first audition with him. I had my Marshall DSL there because I didn't own anything else. That's what I had. I mean, I only owned like a few things then. One of them was a Marshall DSL, and it had a pretty good clean channel, especially those original DSLs, kind of known for their clean channel without the crunch switch in or whatever. And they were a pretty good pedal platform. So that's what I took to my audition. And he goes, "You got any Fender amps?" He was just, and then he was just smiling. You know, yeah, I think he's this is how he was, you know. But I mean, he was just joking around. So, and of course the Eagles recorded with Fenders a lot, and that was kind of their, Fender combos and stuff was sort of the way. California band, sort of country crossover almost. So, yeah. Okay. How do you like the Suhr? Those Suhr guitars? They're fantastic. Suhr. How do you like the Suhr Scott Henderson model? I play it almost more than my 63 Strat. Great. I mean, yeah, Scott's model is somewhat unique. It's got the 6-screw bridge, vintage. 3 pickups that are all the same. So there's not like a hotter bridge pickup. It's evenly balanced in the bridge to the other pickups. He likes it that way. It's got a few things about it that are different. Kind of neat, just a different take. It's a very vintage sort of Strat, really. That's what he digs. Still think you should do a Class A amps in the zone. I should. You're right. I should. And we'll think about that. Yeah, got to get back to doing those. Let's see here. My new FU tone. Oh, really? That's great. Great to hear. Braxall will be happy to hear that, I bet. Steve V says my new FU tone equipped custom Pete Thorn HSS arrived this week. Sweet. Awesome. Tell us more. Tell us what you think. You will be one of the first that have received one. It's great to hear. Always go for the lower output humbucker. They have more dynamics, and with the amps and pedals now, you can get all the gain you want. I agree. Faves are the Ibanez Super 58. Sounds like a hot telly. How about a Thornbucker? Yeah, I kind of agree. If I can only have one pickup, for sure, I'm a PAF kind of guy. They're hot enough, and then you've got all the gain you need coming out of pedals and stuff. You don't need to. Back in the day, that push coming out of a Super Distortion or something was, a way to kick a Marshall and get more oomph and balls out of the amps of the day, because there wasn't, amps with that kind of gain, and there wasn't any pedals. There was just color sound overdriver, and there wasn't anything else out there. Fuzzes, if you didn't want a fuzz, that kind of square waving your whole sound and stuff, it was just a way to get more. So, and then of course pedals started coming out and amps got gainier and everything, and then I think it just became less necessary because the problem is, once again, when you get a hotter pickup, you paint yourself into a corner a little bit, especially when it comes to high end. Closes down the upper treble presency frequencies of the pickup and gives you more of a darker sound, which can be good. It can be a good thing. But if you need that, if you want the chime and the PAF-iness, if you like that stuff, if you like the sound of a humbucker that's sort of single coilish, yeah, it's like a single coil, but more, the hotter you go, the further away you get from that. That's the thing. Any guitar player that played and toured with Chris Cornell is high profile to me and badass. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. I think you're referring to when I was talking about Beato, and the first interview I did with him was actually largely centered around my time with Chris Cornell, and he had a lot of questions about certain things, tunings and things, Soundgarden tunings. It was really pretty cool. Yeah. So, would you put compression before or after overdrive? Always before for me. After an overdrive is going to increase the hiss of the overdrive and be kind of unusable, I think. And then overdrive already compresses, so overdrive lopping off the peaks and valleys for sure. Yeah. Best part of Jakey Lee on Tone Talk was finding out about the album A Fine Pink Mist. Never heard it before, but wow, is it good? I don't know about that. What is that? I'm not sure. I'll have to watch the show. I would have the Soul Food first, but that's just me, says Todd Roy. That was on the fellow was asking about pedal order. Yeah, Soul Food is kind of a clone, right? I think. Pretty sure that's like EH's clone. And I think it's going to vary for people, because some people use a clone as a clean boost or a slightly colored boost. Other people use it to boost into an amp sound. So this fella had a 808 on his board, and it sounds like he was kind of using that for his solo-y pedal into like the Nobles and that other pedal, Trinity or something. Who makes that? Is that like Jetter or something? I'm not sure. Oh, Triumph. There we go. Thanks, Pete. Wampler Triumph. Got it. Based on the Bad Monkey and a Boss SD1. Interesting. Like together? So you can get either sound, SD1 or Bad Monkey. And that sounds like a probably cool pedal. Bad Monkey was kind of their screamer, wasn't it? Really? Interesting that somebody would make an ode to a pedal that was originally like $29. The Bad Monkey was a super cheap. Was it Digitech or something? It was around the era of the grunge pedal. I remember. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Let's put an Alnico 10 in my Princeton. Pros and cons of vintage style speaker. What type do you prefer? Well, you know, Alnicos are more of a, there's a little more of a sort of a compressed character to them generally, so they're a little less aggressive. Your mileage may vary, but I tend to think of them as being a little more, vintage, a little less metal, and a little more like old school, like, you know, an Alnico. Generally, they might be heavier because of the magnet. Just depends. They're generally a little deeper in the cabinet with the magnet, Alnico magnet. Sonically, just a little more compression and sweet is what I think of with the Alnico versus ceramic. A little more hard and probably a little aggressive. Is that the word? I don't know. What do you guys think? Let's see here. Braxel says, going to the Amigo guitar show here in Dallas next weekend. Do you trust buying and using your credit card at these types of shows? I've only bought a guitar from a guitar show once. It was at the Orange County Guitar Show. It worked out fine, but I don't know. That's the only time I've ever, you know, generally speaking, if it's a reputable dealer, because a lot of times it's dealers, right? They're just there with a, you know, so you know, these days, maybe you can search people online before you buy, like if they've got a reverb store and how many, you know, what the rating is and things like that on, so I would probably do my homework, and it's always good to get a second opinion, especially if it's a vintage guitar, on the authenticity. I mean, it's part of kind of what I like about shopping at a place like Gruen's, or, you know, you kind of know what you're getting. Like, I'm not going to screw you around on like, oh, it pickups a rewind or something, you know, they generally disclose all that stuff. So it's a bit of a crapshoot. And if you don't, it's good to have a friend that knows what they're doing. You know what I mean? It's like, I was looking at a guitar in Atlanta a while ago, and James Cole was with me, and he's a little more into vintage stuff than me these days. He's the other guitar player from Classic Rock Show. He's a lot younger than I am and stuff, but he's pretty up on it. Like, he's pretty into it, and he kind of knows, like, I feel like a little more than me now, like on what to look for, things that might worry, you know, like, and so now I kind of tend to I'll send him pictures if I find something. I go, what do you think about this? A while ago, I found an SG actually, and it was at Rudy's, and it was cool. It was refinned Pelham, and it was a 64 or 5, and it was a lot of money, but, you know, Rudy's can be expensive, but it was nice. But it was weird because the it had PAFs in it, or patent number, which was also weird. Maybe, oh no, it was a Les Paul SG was what it was. It was earlier, so that's why PAFs were like, seemed okay, like 61 or 62, refinned Pelham, really cool looking, had a great neck, and played really good. And I love Pelham Blue SGs, super sharp. But I remember it was weird. 2 PAFs. The bridge one was narrow spaced, like some of those Gibsons that you see from you ever seen a narrow space? Like, so in other words, in the bridge, it looked like the E string was way on the outside of the high E pole piece and stuff. And I was like, I don't think this would have been original to the guitar. You know, why would this guitar have a narrow spaced PAF in the bridge? That doesn't seem, and I just kind of lost interest after that. But I was sending him pictures and asking him, like, what do you think about this? Is this something that, like, they did, you know, would they ever ship a regular SG Les Paul with a narrow space PAF? Was it just an accident, or is it more likely like kind of something oddball, you know? Which deluxe reverb, 68 or hand wired? 65, 68 or hand wired. So if I was going to pick a deluxe, I think these 68s are pretty cool for a deal. Because they come as far as a pedal platform goes, they don't have a bright cap. They're probably a little more versatile with pedals. It's kind of like I have a 68 Princeton, one of those silver ones that doesn't have the bright cap, and it is a little on the darker side. It's not super chimey, but it's basically got that great 60s Fender sound, but it takes pedals like a monster because it doesn't have the bright cap. So but that's a silly thing that you can always, you can just put it on a push-pull pot and get an amp tech to put it in or out. Or if you get the 65, you can just pull it out if you don't like the bright cap. And then I think it's largely like a really similar amplifier. There might be something different with the negative feedback on the 68 ones, I think, as I remember. A little bit of a different circuit, but really pretty close. And they're such tweakable, highly tweakable amplifiers, right? Hand-wired, probably the best. I mean, that's probably the way I would go these days because they make that now, right? Custom shop hand wired or whatever, deluxe reverb, and then a little easier work on and all that with the probably turret board or whatever, and you can tweak it into whatever you want at that point. So that would be if you can afford the just more scratch, but if you can swing it, go for it. Anyway, great pedal amp, deluxe reverb, great as a club amp. Perfect volume for, you can get it up to 3.5 or 4 and it just sounds great. So yeah. Okay. Let's see. What else we got here? Just working through the chat here. Can't imagine doing a 3-set cover gig with a 10-pound guitar. Yeah, it's a lot for some people. It just depends, for sure. Everybody's different with their shoulder and all that. So, yeah. The 60, yeah, Karen says this 65 doesn't have the treble mod cap. The 68 does. No, I think it's the other way around. The 68 doesn't have a bright cap, I don't think. Other way around, Karen. So the 65 does have a bright, I think. But anyways, and the 68 is the Bassman. Oh, that's interesting because the 2-channel has the Bassman tone stack on the first channel, so it's a little modded and different. The 68 is going to be a little more gig pedal friendly then, But if you want the ultimate scooped Fendery thing, then you're going to want more of that 65 circuit. Once again, my recommendation: get a push-pull pot or just mod the amp, put a little toggle switch or something, and have that bright on there so you can kick it in if you want. Yeah. Okay. How does one not use samples and tricks when touring budgets of yesteryear are long gone? It depends on the artist, I would say, whether or not the touring budgets are long gone. I mean, some gigs, it's like they're breaking in more, obviously with Taylor Swift or things like that, they're bringing in more money than ever, So, I mean, some of these tours grow so much money, it's insane, but a lot of them don't, if you're a smaller act or whatever, and it's more and more difficult to tour than ever. So it's all over the map, really. This depends on who we're talking about. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Fender Tone Masters are pretty light compared to their tube counterparts. Well, yeah, because they're basically modeling amps, but brilliant move on their part. I think it was a smart business decision. Yeah. Karen says Alnico speakers will reduce weight on amps. Once again, I'm not sure that's actually true. Sometimes a magnet on an Alnico can be pretty big. Like if we look at the weight of, let's see here, Celestion Alnico Cream, 90 watt Alnico guitar speaker. I'm just curious about this. Not trying to constantly prove you wrong, Karen. Just wondering. So it's about 9.5 pounds. 9, or does it say 9.3? 9.3 pounds. So that's 9 pounds, 3 ounces, right? Celestion Vintage 30. Let's look at what a Vintage 30 is. That's about, oh yeah, it is a little bit lighter. It's a pound. Yeah, it's a pound lighter. That's interesting. So the ceramic magnet's a little heavier than the Alnico. Interesting. Yeah, it's a bigger speaker physically, but you know, that'd be the only thing I would say about Alnico. Sometimes they, depending on the depth of the cabinet and stuff, you should be fine in most instances, but they go a little deeper sometimes. The magnet's just bigger, but I guess it's lighter, the material, huh? I never really thought about it before, whether ceramic or Alnico is lighter. Definitely Neo is the lightest. We can definitely say that. Chris says Firebirds and SGs can pull forward on my shoulder, which can be worse than a heavy guitar. Yeah, they're weird. I mean, Firebird is a strange. I had one once, and I got rid of it. That's how I got my black custom. Actually, I had the Firebird and gave it back to Gibson and got the custom instead. I thought I was going to love it. It was a Pelham blue. Imagine Pelham blue 3 pickup Firebird custom or whatever they were with the big block inlays, and it just looked amazing. And I played it on stage once, and I was like, "This is bizarre." Like it was it wasn't so much the weight or the way it sat on my shoulder. It was all over here. So like instead of being here, it felt like the whole guitar shifted 1.5 inches this way. So when you're playing like an F chord or something, my arm was way out here, and it was just like really uncomfortable. Just the way the guitar sits on the body and stuff. It's strange. So I guess that's sort of saying the same thing, but just sits in a weird way. Yeah. Sorry, coughing. Do you sometimes just use a 57 for recording? Yeah, I mean, if I only have one mic, and generally speaking, most of my stuff is the 57 with the other mic mixed in at 20, 30, 40% of the volume. Like, I mean, if the sound is 100%, I should say 60 or 70% of it is the 57, and then the remaining 30 is the other microphone filling in, adding a bit of thickness. And yeah, but the main tone, I like that 57, punch thing. I've just grown accustomed to it. Sometimes I can just use one other mic, like sometimes I think a Royer or sometimes just a condenser is the right sound, And never have I felt that way more than using the Soyuz 1973 that I have. I love that thing. Sounds so good. I could just use it, honestly, and get the sound out of it. It's a great mic all on its own. Have you ever played a Silver Sky? What do you think, and how does it compare to your Strat? It's a way different guitar. The in-between single coil positions are really hyper scooped and can be pretty cool if you want that thing. The neck is very different. It's with the 7.5 radius or 7.25 or whatever it is on an old Strat. A very different feel in my guitar. Far more vintage sort of radius and sort of round C in the back, like a bigger sort of rounder C. My neck is wider, much more, the modern radius with a, generally speaking, my guitars are the 10 to 14 compound, bigger frets, all that stuff. So the Silver Sky is going to be more vintage, higher action, more like a 50s Strat sort of feel and sound, really. Yeah. Quite a different guitar. Did I see the John Mayer signature string set from Ernie Ball? I did. They're like 10.5s. Yeah. Pretty cool. That's neat. Let's see here. Brian says, be safe and have an awesome time in Japan. Can't wait, man. Can't wait to get over there. I've been working on Duolingo for my Japanese every day. Mainichi. Benkyou shite. It's true. Mainichi nihongo wa hanashimasu. I feel good. Like my brain is expanding. I like it. Okay. What else? Let's see. I've got a 4-pound Esquire. Polonia. That's that wood that's almost like balsa. I could play it without a strap, just holding it. That's cool. Suhr made some guitars out of that stuff, and John seems to like it okay. I would always wonder, like, is it too, like, is there, like, I don't know. But, I mean, for some people, great. I've played some of them. They seem to be cool and resonant. I don't know. I just think for the weight can get a little too light for me sometimes. But 305 online, great to have you all here. What do you think about Polonia? I have one guitar that's kind of made of that stuff. I have a Gil Yaren that the body, it looks like a sort of Gretschy Les Paul shape. And you guys have seen it before a little bit. I should play it more. I don't have it. It's out in the other room in a case, actually. And I should get out and use it more because it's pretty cool. It does have a very airy tone. So it was a mahogany body. kind of built like a Les Paul with a maple top, but the mahogany was all hollowed out, and then he fills it in with Paulonia. I always say that wrong. So kind of think of it like a outer edge of mahogany or whatever, all the way around, hollowed out. So you would have a hollow body if you just put the maple top on, but he fills in the hollow part with the lighter wood. Really resonant, a lot of air. Beautiful neck on that guitar. I do have to get the nut looked at though, because it kind of tends to, like, you know, some 3 on a side. It's got the strings fanning out, and it's a little tuning is a little dodgy on it. So just for that reason, I haven't played it enough. But got to take it to somebody, get the nut done, and see if I can get that sorted, because it is a really God, the neck might be my favorite of my 3 Gilliaran guitars as far as the neck goes. It's really nice. Yeah, super chat came in there. Gotta grab that in a sec here. Anyways, what's this? Do I think a power amp in, preamp out is the same as an effects loop? That's a question for Friedman. It can be, but technically sometimes not. It's like a passive loop sometimes, and it's not buffered in the same way and stuff, from what I understand. So it's really amplifier dependent. So the answer would be not always. And I think it's in that kind of active buffering sort of, you know, just a passive loop isn't the same sometimes as a, you know, like the Metro zero loss effect loop, or the, you know, whatever you would find in my Suhr amp has a more sophisticated circuit as far as the buffering goes, the return volume, all that stuff. So a simple power amp in and preamp out used to be something that, you know, amp techs would do sometimes. And it not quite the same as an effect loop. You know, sometimes asking amp techs things like this, they're like, well, not exactly. And they don't really tell you exactly what it is. I'm just thinking that's what it is, that it's not, the circuit is a little simpler, and it's not necessarily adequate for, say, running especially if you're running a long cable length out of that preamp out to a pedal board and then back all the way back in, you know, that you might be getting lost and stuff like that. So good question for somebody like Dave. Not all situations are the same, or amplifiers. So just make sure, you know. Please stop talking about pickups and guitars. My wallet needs a break, says my knees hurt. Okay, we can talk about anything you want. We can talk about weights of guitars, or we can talk about, I don't know, our favorite foods, foreign travel, whatever you like. Let's see. There's something from Lauren. At the same volume, do you think a full stack or even pair of stacks have more full sounding presence than a pair of single speakers? It's an interesting question. I think more of what I hear is, I remember back in the day somebody telling me about my friend Al made an observation about Steve Stevens, and how he would Steve used to run like full stacks, you know, of amps, and how he made the observation that he still had tight bass even when using a plexi style amp, and he would run the bass very low because the 412 generates its own bass. Like the bigger cabinet kind of couples in a way that almost like an SVT with a whole bunch of 10-inch speakers in a big giant cabinet, and it tends to have its own bass. The cabinet develops bass, so I think it's maybe that more speakers coupling in a certain size cabinet and more. So I hear it in the low end. Like I find I can get a 112 is always sort of the most mid-rangey, boxy sounding. Put a mic right on it, because now you're asking about recording though. If you put a mic right on it, a 112 can sound great. And the reason is at a reasonable volume, as long as you're not pushing it too hard, because it's still just a single speaker. The reason is because I believe that there's no phasing going on with the other speaker. So if you put a mic right up on a single speaker, it's the only source of the sound. There's no bleed, nothing bouncing, or nothing coming from up here that's getting to the mic a little bit later. Sometimes it's pretty minor, but sometimes you can hear it in IRs. Like, for example, if you've got the Celestion IRs and you've got a package of IRs and there's 112s, 212s, and 412s, try listening to the 112 and then try listening to the other microphones as IRs the other. So like single 57 on a 112, then listen to the single 57 on a closed back 212, then listen to the single 57 on a closed back 412. You might find you actually prefer, in some ways, the 112 because it can be the most direct and full and sort of less diffuse, i.e. phasey sounding. Like, and I think there's something to that. I've had this conversation with the Celestion folks when they were making impulse responses. They say, yeah, who would have thought? But like, we kind of like, in many instances, like the sound of the 112s. They're just very, everything's there and all the frequencies. They sound very balanced. As soon as you incorporate other speakers, of course, there's another speaker over here making sound, but the one over here is mic'd. You know, that other speaker gets in there a little bit, and it can just be a little more diffuse. It's not straight up out of phase, but it can be a little less punchy and clear and defined. But anyways, certainly when you're in the room, a 412 tends to make more bass. It allows you to turn down, say on a 4-hole Marshall or something, turn down the bass more on the amp because the cabinet makes more bass. So you're not looking for the bass out of the preamplifier or the amp or anything like that. That's kind of interesting. That's my discussion on that. My opinion. Todd says, do you find growing your hair long when you're older is harder? I actually do. Yeah. It's a funny thing about growing your hair out. I mean, this is like, you know, it's still there. So I figured I'd try it, and it's working out. But it's not exactly the same as it was when I was 19 years old. That's for sure. It's like different, you know, seems like not as, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's not, hair just changes when you get older, right? Everything does. Our skin changes. Everything changes. You know, we all our light is fading, but we're still here and we're still rocking. So it's good. We keep it going as long as we can. Somebody says it looks great. I like that you're going out. It's fun, man. I like that. I'm kind of excited about it, actually. It's about finally where I want it to be, and I'm just going to let it keep going and see what happens. So kind of fun. I play in rock bands, so I can do it. I can get away with it. I like it. I don't work at the bank. Nothing wrong if you work at the bank, by the way. But you know, it just kind of goes with the territory, I guess. When you're in a classic rock band. Anyone else in here have Celestion GM 1270s from the 80s? The magnet's like 3/4 white and 1/4 black. I know the ones you mean. Never crazy about any of those that I've heard, to be honest. Yeah, they made some wacky ones, and that was one of them. Just in my opinion. Might be great. I don't know. Who knows with the right amp. Rick says, looking for another amp different than my Marshalls and my high gain. Been eyeballing the Bella, my Ombre. Oh, Bella and Ombre are very different. So Ombre is like a brown deluxe. So it's way gainier, more mid-rangey, more proto-Marshall sounding. But think blues, though, like BB King. No, sorry, not BB King. Like first two ZZ Top records. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. First two ZZ Top records, full-on Billy Gibbons tone. That kind of bluesy, raunchy combo, cranked up. The circuit is not dissimilar from what ended up being Marshall's, you know, in the later 60s. So it's a brown, you know, early 60s sort of circuit, deluxe. The Bella, way more, it's got a solid mid-range, the Bella. It's not a scooped, airy, super reverb kind of sound. It's a little bit more solid mid-range. A little thicker through the mids, but it's a way more of that less gain Fendery, what we think of as a Fendery sound, you know. So just think of it as kind of like a cleaner pedal platform kind of thing. Wouldn't use the Ombre for my main, like if I was running pedals and wanted a clean sound, not going to be my choice, you know. If I want a more rock and cranked up combo, dirty, bluesy, you know, I want to go to the club. It's not a very big club. I want to rock and tone. I don't really want to take pedals. You know, I'm going to rip some blues or whatever or something. That's the amp to take, you know, a little bit more. So different thing. Yeah. Big Boss says Alnico's really heavy. Yeah, I guess, I mean, we were looking at the magnet weights. I mean, I guess it looks like the Celestion 90-watt Alnico speaker, just from their own website, is about a pound lighter than a V30. I thought it was heavier too. I did, to be honest. I mean, I learn things all the time, but 1 pound. So, I mean, It's really close to the weight, but a V30 and that Alnico speaker, I would have thought the Alnico would be a heavier speaker, but I guess not. When we think about super heavy speakers, I mean, it's definitely like EVs, you know, or like a 12L or whatever is like, they weigh a ton, and that's a ceramic magnet. So, but you know, there's probably some heavier Alnico speakers as well. Have you ever thought about putting your amp in pedal format, amp in a box? I mean, sure, all the time. You know, we've definitely talked about it, done different things, just to be honest, you know, but it's just, we've never been able to kind of focus on it to bring it to fruition, but it would be something that I would love to do one of these days, you know? Yeah. You're an amp aficionado. I am. It's true. I've been seriously thinking about selling my Mint 78 Marshall GMP 2104 with original black backs and my vintage, and also Mint 66 Fender Super Reverb. I could potentially be interested in that Super Reverb. What's a Marshall 2104? Marshall 2104. Marshall 2104. Oh, so that was a combo version of the it's a 50 watt, right? It's a 50 watt JCM 800, right? Basically 2104. Yeah, it's a 2204 in a combo. Very cool. Very cool amplifier. Those are pretty neat. Yeah, you never know. Hit me up, send me an email or something. Kind of fun to have more amplifiers than I could ever possibly. I should be selling things. A lot of you out there are like me. You still consider things and you're like, wait a minute, shouldn't I be not? I should be going the other direction, shouldn't I? But I love this stuff. I still love it. I still, damn it, can't help it. Lauren says speaker magnets are handy. After a re-roof on my house, there was a few dozen nails around the yards. I stuck an old speaker magnet to a hand truck and rolled it around. I got them all. That's awesome. Yeah, they're quite powerful. They will pick up nails. Okay. I think Todd Roy or Tom Lind was saying, I didn't think I would like the Silver Sky Radius, but it's oddly playable. Yeah, I don't mind guitars with more, you know, vintage Fender Radius. A really nice 54 Strat, you know, the kind of custom shop, whatever. They're set up really nice, man. It's a beautiful thing. They'll just make you play a little different, you know, for sure. But my vintage Strat, my 64 is a traditional Fender Radius, and I like it. Gotta have the action a little higher, but maybe you play a little more deliberate and a little more slower, and spend a little more time on every note, and that's just the kind of music you make on that guitar, and that's okay, you know? So I think it can be a good thing. You know, John Mayer is not a shredder. He doesn't like play, you know, blistering hammer on whatever. He's more of a deliberate, great phrasing, and, you know, he can rip for sure. But when you think about it, for his style, you know, I think kind of when you get a flatter radius, we tend to go for the lowest action we can, and maybe the strings, I mean, I'm guilty of this for sure. I probably got some rattle going that maybe I shouldn't, you know, sometimes on necks like that. And you kind of just can't with a 7 1/4. It sort of forces you to have the action and the truss rod and everything set up so that if you, because a big part of the sound, of course, if you're going to be a bender, if you're playing on a guitar like that, and you're going to want to be able to get at least a whole step, if not a minor third, out of the high E string. So you're just going to set the guitar up to do that. And if the frets are optimum and everything's cool, the action's still going to be a little higher than what you can do on a shredder, just because of that radius, you know, makes you play a little different, and just kind of is what it is. So it's an interesting conversation, I think. Let's see. Do you still use your original CIA PT100? Haven't for a long time, but it's right in the other room. I've got one, you know, I've got my prototypes that are basically like the new one. 2 of those that I used on the road and stuff, and they've all been modded and stuff. So they're nothing like the old ones, although they cosmetically resemble them. But I have one original PT100 CAA that is exactly the circuit, untouched, not modded, the whole 9 yards. And I should pull it out and bring it in here sometime and play with it a little bit more. It's just been a while since I've done that. So, yeah. Oh, there's a super chat from Philip. Hey, P, got a RJM PBC6/X having paralysis of analysis. Any suggestions on where to start with patches? Oh, I see what you're saying. Like what to do. Yeah, make your core 4, like what do you make a great clean sound that's just with maybe generally speaking, I'll make like a 4 that are like not a lot of effects, but maybe a little reverb on the clean, maybe a compressor. That's it. A crunch sound, maybe no reverb, or maybe you can switch it in and out, maybe no delay, or you can switch it in and out. That kind of thing. And then on a a lead sound, just some echo, probably a little bit of echo, a little 400 millisecond or something that's kind of fun. And that's it. Just you come up with those sounds first, like whatever your core. I need these tones. Anything you can think of. Just start, and then you go. Oh, now I want to make a little bit more affected clean, like maybe something with a harmonic tremolo and a spring reverb that's a little louder. And make that sound. Oh, maybe I want a crunch sound now. It's got a bit of plate verb on it. It's a little more fun. Now I want a lead sound with a little more dramatic delay, maybe a stereo delay, make those 3 and then go from there, It's kind of nice to make on a pedal board that has a switcher. It's kind of nice to make those sounds be something almost pedal platform or pedal friendly, so that it's like you could have like those core sounds. And then on the pedals on the board, got a couple Strymons or whatever you've got, you can then switch in like, here's a harmonic tremolo, or here's a vibrato or something on the clean, or a chorus, and you can get to them quick. So they're kind of like on my clean, it pulls up. It's just basic with a little bit of reverb and maybe a compressor, but I can quickly hit a tube screamer. I can hit a harmonic trem. I can hit some things that on the fly I could use on sessions or gigs. And because if you have that and you've got your sort of like arrayed across the first 4 or 5 presets on your switcher, some basic core bass tones, with some easily switchable effects, you might find that covers 80% of what you do anyway, and then after that, you can start making your banks of sounds with the switcher that are more geared towards individual song presets, something that where it's like, oh, here's this specific delay for this song or specific whatever, yeah. So that's the way I go at it. And generally the first bank on my switcher, when it pulls up, when I turn the thing on, it's on sound 0, 0 or whatever. It's going to be that clean. And then the next one's going to be the crunch. And the next one's going to be the lead. And it's going to be those core sounds. I always array my switchers like that. And then if I'm doing, say, the classic rock show tour or whatever, pulls up with those on the first 4. And then after that, it'll get into specific songs and maybe even a set list where each page or whatever on the switcher is a new song, and I can just change between song to song to song to song in the set, and it's just sort of organized. Of course, it's really helpful to use the computer editor when you're doing this to kind of map things out and stuff, because RJM and Musicom, they all have great editors and stuff. We got 312 people online. It's great to have you guys here. Thanks for so many showing up. I appreciate it. Why is my new Suhr taking till February 25? I thought I was way ahead on ordering it. I'm curious on how Suhr does the orders when mine was done May 24th. Not really sure. Dealer question. You could tell me your dealer, and I could try and put in a question, but it really depends on, generally speaking, it can be your dealer might have had more guitars on order. And I think it's something like that, because there's like a queue of guitars they have. And if it's a big dealer and they've got a lot of guitars on order, they might have had 15 ahead of that one or something like that. There is a thing where, if you kind of bump it up the chain a little bit and ask like, hey, if you guys are just getting, I don't want to speak out of turn here, but I was just, Chris Clarkson was mentioning this the other day, that if there's a guitar that a dealer really needs and they've got a bunch of others on order that are like, just like, let's say classic S's for stock or something like that, they might be able to shift those around a little bit, but I can't promise that, I think that's a thing. So you might ask your dealer like, hey, is there any way you guys can bump me up in the whatever to try and get this one? Is there anything? And they might be like, no, we've actually got 14 customers ahead of you that all did custom orders and have been waiting since April. Or it just depends on every individual situation. But hopefully that explains it a little bit. Like the guitars are all in a queue, kind of, and they're all done. They're all sort of made to order, you know. So if there was a bunch made to order and that dealer's got, they can only make so many. Does that make sense? Like it's all done sort of in a schedule, and they can only make so many at once. And if there was a bunch in line ahead, it's like being on the standby list for upgrades on an airplane. You know, sometimes there's only 3 people ahead of you. Sometimes there's like 25. You know, and you know, or sometimes there's nobody, or something. You know, just depends. So, what's your favorite food in Japan? Well, sushi, 100%. But I love yakitori too. I would do ramen more, but I'm a gluten-free guy, so it's like it becomes difficult. I found one place in Tokyo Station that does gluten-free ramen. It was pretty cool because I like ramen. I do. Udon, don't really do because of just once again, the noodles. Like shabu too. Shabu, delish, oishi, honto. Is there a different tremolo bar I can use for the version of your signature model? I have the gold top model. Different than the standard Wilkinson one? Is there a problem with it or anything? You can ask the Suhr guys, you know, hit them up at cs@suhr.com, customer service at suhr.com, cs, and ask them. I'm just wondering, just FYI, I get mine shaped by John, and he simply takes a tool where he sticks the end that screws in, and he bends the bar down so that it's a little closer to the body. I always get him to do that on mine. So it's like not got such an angle and a height off the body. I find a lot of them, they're uncomfortably high. They feel weird to me like that. I like to be able to like, kind of like on my old fender bar, because on my old Strat, the bridge sits quite far forward. So that of course tilts the bar forward as well. So it's like right there, like under my palm. I don't have to reach. I don't like when I have to reach. I don't know about you guys. I don't like when I have to reach up for the bar. It feels like this monstrosity. Then I can't really. It's nice to be able to, with your pinky as you're picking, reach down, grab the thing, and then you kind of got it in your palm without thinking about it. And you can do bar stuff, you know? So I've always got the bar at a fairly low angle to the body, sort of parallel to the body, as opposed to rising up and then even further with a little kick up at the end on a bar. So, but specific bar, I mean, it's similar to a standard Goto 510 bar, but it's a little different. Maybe the one for the Wilkinson that comes on like you would have on the gold top model. So just maybe it's just let me know what you want, or let them know, like, hey, I want it a little more like this. See if they can help you. How about 2 turntables and a microphone? Okay. Let's see. What else we got here? Is there such a thing as a Fender Deluxe reverb mod with an effects loop? You could do that, but I don't know if it'd be that great. Big part of that amp sound is that you're kind of pushing that little 22 watt power section, and it's going to crunch up pretty fast if you put a loop in it of any sort, and it might not be that beneficial, you know, because there's not a ton of gain in the front end anyway. So it's like that little bit of gain you're getting out of the front end of the Fender. Yeah, I would just run the effects in front. You know, it's going to be for the amount of work, the mod, and then modifying the amp, you know, changing it away from stock and all that stuff. The amount of clarity or headroom or whatever that you're looking for out of your effects that you will gain is going to be minimal, I think, on something like a deluxe reverb. Yeah. It's about 1:30. I'm going to split in about a little bit earlier than I normally would, in about 10 minutes, just because I've got some stuff that I got to do today. I've got a little meeting, actually, that's quite exciting, that I got to go do. And I've got a little bit of work before I do that. So, yeah, I'm going to go relatively soon here, guys. But this has been fun. And a few more questions. Let's see what else we got here. At an open jam, somebody told me I wasn't finding a band because I looked too much like a cop. Hey, man, there's bands of all cops, right? You should just join the police band. I don't know. Every band's got to look. That could be the thing, you know. That could be the thing. You could all look like cops. You could all be cops. Yeah, grow your beard out. There you go. Whatever it takes. Let's see. Michael says he's 59. Are you? You don't look 59 in that photo. Or is that you like 40 years ago? You look pretty young there, dude. Playing in a Dawkins tribute. Life's not too bad. That's cool. Break those chains around you, bro. Be that dream warrior. You're a dream warrior, living the dream. Yeah. Let's see. Earl is intent on telling me that consumption of blowfish sushi can lead to hair loss. Well, if that happens, then I generally don't eat blowfish sushi. Isn't that the dangerous one where it can kill you? Is that why? Because it kills you first, and then all your hair falls out? You won't care then. Won't matter. Won't be around. Ironically, it won't matter. There's nothing special, but they sound fine. Probably not as good as others, but great 80s for. Oh, you're talking about the 70s speakers, the Celestians, or the 7080s, or whatever they were called, right? Well, cool. As long as you're happy, man. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. Let's see. The Tonex works excellent with a Moss valve amp and Marshall 412s. Moss valves, they're a great power amp for, they got a real nice tone that it's not a compromise. So, and Marshall 412s use 2 Tonex units. Stereo setup sounds good to me, man. 2 Tonexes with 2 Moss valves, and you can get different sounds probably and do a stereo 412. But that's a cool rig. Pretty fun. Michael says he's got a 63 Les Paul Custom. So like a SG, late Les Paul Custom. Like, is it white? That's cool. Cool guitar, man. Cool guitar. A couple super chats there coming in. Gonna grab those in just a second here. Appreciate that. Thank you, guys. Have any of you guys played any of the Suhr guitars? All the YouTubers say they are the shit for the price. Haven't checked them out. Don't know about those. Live to play guitar with a super chat. Thank you. Appreciate that. Up there in Canada. Was wondering what Eddie Van Halen humbucker, if you had to choose one to get Van Halen 1 sound. Well, I think, long story short, because we talked a lot about this, so I don't want to get too crazy, but we're talking about 2 guitars, not 1. So in my opinion, it's Super Distortion or Mighty Mite Hot 13 point whatever K, almost 14K ceramic in a Destroyer. And that's one of the tones. And then we're talking about a 9K overwound PAFE thing a la Seymour Duncan 78 in a Frankenstrat. 2 guitars, not 1. Half of Van Halen 1 is the Destroyer. So when we're talking about On Fire and we're talking about, my main examples are, generally speaking, Jamie's Crying. That's the Destroyer. You Really Got Me, that tone. That's the Destroyer. That big, beefy, full range, lots of low end, 24 3/4 scale situation. And then Ain't Talking About Love, the Super Strat thingy. The 2 different sounds on that record. Yep. Let's see. Michael says he's got 2 Lexicon LXP1s on his pedalboard. Don't think anyone else has done this. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, guitar rigs are like snowflakes, generally speaking, unless we copy someone else's. Let's see. Get my PT standard tomorrow. So excited for my first Suhr. Congratulations, Renee. I hope you really like it. Let us know on one of these shows. Come back and give us some feedback. Let us know what you think. Michael's asking, have you noticed how running your setup using a Lexicon unit changed your tone for the better? Well, the old PCM 41s and 42s were known for a great preamp circuit in them. I used to use a Lexicon MPX. No, it wasn't called the MPX1. MPX G2. Was that what it was? It was the guitar one that had, it was kind of like one of those early, sort of modeling, and it had tube screamer sounds and phase 90 sounds in it. And you could use it pre and post. It was designed to do that. Quite complicated, had its own foot switch, weird unit, but I liked using it. It was cool. I think I might still have it somewhere. I don't know where it ended up, but definitely the old PCM 41s, 42s, people, they had a great preamp kind of thing, and then you could boost into your amp with them, kind of a thing. I would assume you have an issue getting a lower action. Not sure why you couldn't get a high enough of action. Oh, you guys are talking about 7.25 old school radius. Mining Shirt says, I feel that John Mayer can probably shred. Oh, yeah. I mean, he could totally. But, his style is more, isn't so much that. But Braxel says, my dealer is Guitar Sanctuary. That's Texas, right? Yeah. So they have, generally speaking, a lot of guitars on order. There's a queue. You might just ask them, like, hey, is there a way you guys can, get this to me in January? Like, does it gotta be? Like, can you get it to me in a couple months? But it's generally speaking, it's down to the dealer and the amount of guitars they have on order in their queue and what's, how many other customers are waiting and stuff like that. Can be that, just depends. The first person to hit up with a question like that, or the first inquiry should be made with the dealer, and just ask them if there's anything you can do to kind of, they might be able to shift things around a little bit. But I can't promise. Thank you, Pete, for making every Sunday great, says Brian. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. I'm going to move down, grab this right here, and then I got to split pretty quick. I was Leo for almost 30 years. What does that mean? I don't know. Sasha Boo Boo, how are you? I haven't seen you for a while. Many of us were band geeks and female cops. Oh, law enforcement officer. Got it. Female cops had a high percentage of cheerleaders. Yeah, and you're in bands and stuff, so there you go. Police officer, former police officer, and guitar player extraordinaire. Fantastic. I like it. Peter Evans also with a super chat. Thank you guys for the super chats. Thanks for a powerful Sunday live. Appreciate it. Videos this week. Well, the IRJ is coming. That's going to happen. And I also have a video coming for the Artifact from Source Audio. So I've got those two to edit. I'm actually going to, after I have this little meeting today, I'm going to go home and edit those. And those will be my 2 videos for this week. And then I'm going to be over in Japan after that. So that's kind of what's coming out over the next couple weeks. Then when I get back here, I got a lot of work to do and other stuff that I got to hit. So, yeah, so planning on doing that. But thanks, Peter, for the super chats. Thanks you guys for keeping me in coffee around here. I appreciate it. 312 online. I wish I could stay, but I've really got a split. Because I got this little meeting I got to get to, and I just realized I got to get some files transferred here and stuff and bring my hard drive home and do some editing tonight. So you guys, I really appreciate you being here. Sorry, this show's a little short today, 1:46. I usually go 2 hours, 1:47, but that's a pretty good length anyway. Next week, I'm going to put up a watch page, but it'll be a special time because I'll be in Tokyo. So it might be a really early show. So if anybody's watching from Europe or England, you're in luck if you like to hang here. Because it'll be early, because that'll be like late at night for me. So, but I'll figure out something, either that or I'll do a different thing, like on an evening show or something, morning for me. Yeah, that's right. It'll be morning for me there, evening. So I might do something like that. I'll try and not do it at the same time as Ben Coombs, but sorry, Ben, if I got to do one at the same time as your show. All right. I appreciate you guys very much. Thank you so much. This is fun as always. I always look forward to it. It's great to see you here, and good times. And everybody be nice to one another out there, and wish me luck over in Japan. Thanks to those who came to my clinic at Sweetwater, or if anybody is watching that came to the clinic in Grand Rapids at the Firehouse Guitars. Thanks to Firehouse Guitars. Thanks to Sweetwater for having me out this week. Really appreciate it. And thanks to Suhr for sending me out there. Awesome. Onward. Here we go. Ikimashou. Take care, everybody.